Well, as much as we tried to hold off on this one and stay away from it for a little bit, we needed something to pick up the spirits from yesterday's show and get back to the correct Bridges, and that would be the one.
Look at that beautiful jersey.
Yes, I had to bust out the old Suns jersey, and I even have got the Nova right here represent. Couldn't decide which one we want because I'm not allowed to wear the Nets jersey. So
maybe halfway through the show you can switch it. And,
I'll switch jerseys doing commercial reads. How about that? But yes, welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on a Wednesday, and this should be a fun one. And of course, my family always watches anyway, so they're all probably sitting there just laughing because I'm sitting here in New Jersey. But real honesty, when Jack filled in his dad, while you guys were in New York, he had the City Edition Suns jersey on at that time. So Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens. Yes, repping my Kale Suns jersey. Brianna here producing the show. As always you guys in the chat, and we really appreciate it. This is going to be a fun one because it's one that many people have talked about in general, about everything that happened in 2018 for the draft, leading up to this point right now where Kale is 6 years in the league now, going into year number 7, establishing himself in the league as a player that many people can feel that can just slot right in on many teams and can help contribute on a championship team. And that's why we're discussing him. That's why many of you bring up his name in the chat of wanting to give up assets for him to bring him via trade from the Brooklyn Nets. The good Bridges, it is. And I see Ash was already in there. Devon, I saw his name and I saw the photo. I had to jump right back in. I appreciate it, Ash. I already had one from my Quill saying Kale's older brother, who has a company, he works with him. So Quill, appreciate it. Eric, the older brother, E. So this is gonna be a fun one. I've talked about him since high school, and so this is nothing new, folks. So don't worry. I've done this before, even on draft night, broadcasting during the draft. 25 minutes before it happened, I'm walking around. I'm shaking hands with the guys. We were all at
popping bubbly. Like, oh yeah, he's staying home.
I'm doing a hit on Sixers.com with Brian Seltzer, and at the time, Donna, I think it was Donahue, the Penn coach. He was filling in with Brian Seltzer, and they were doing something live, and I jumped on and had a conversation there. So the good things that the head coach was saying, playing it in the Big Five against Villanova and Kale, and then boom. Just like that, we're all pissed off. So let's get to it, though. We have a lot to talk about, why we are discussing it. Of course, the offseason begins. There's a lot of buzz about what Brooklyn is doing, what Brooklyn is not doing, and Mikal being a big part of how he needs to get out of there and wherever he goes. But ideally, a lot of people would like to have him back here. Kyle? You want to begin?
Yeah, so sort of an overview on Mikal Bridges. Smooth athlete, textbook size for a wing. Great eye test player, 90th percentile or better in spot ups, transition, pick and roll ball handling, cuts, offense off of screens. Made 43.5% of his threes, but also shot 59.3% inside the arc. Takes the quality shots that the defense gives him. He's not a true one-on-one scorer, but he knows how to pick his spots and can be a complementary weapon who doesn't need a lot of dribbles. That's what scouts were saying about Mikal Bridges in 2018 when they should have just stayed where they were at, kept the hometown kid, played at Villanova, was a big winner there. And, frankly, the only things that have changed since then are to the positive. I think, going to Phoenix or ending up in Phoenix, he did slot into the role that he would play here, right? More of the complementary. He's your third guy some nights. Sometimes he's even further down the list as a fourth option, not because of the talent, but because he's willing to take that back seat. And then he goes down and locks in on the other end of the floor, takes the top assignment on the other team and says, this is my primary responsibility tonight, is shutting this guy down, slowing this guy down, whoever that might be. He's got the size, the athleticism, all that to match basically all the top wings that you have to stop to get to an Eastern Conference Finals, an NBA Finals, and eventually win a championship. Now, after he leaves Phoenix, and certainly he's part of a great finals run there as part of some winning teams as he was at the college level, he got a chance these last couple of years to be a number one option on most nights and to show what he can do as an individual scorer. Last year did not go quite as well in terms of, well, anything, team success, the individual numbers, all that. That run at the end of 22-23, I think it was like a 25 to 30 game stretch that he had after being moved from Phoenix to Brooklyn. I think people were taken aback, like, oh, wow, he's got a lot more as an individual isolation, lead the offense type of scorer than maybe people expected, and showed that it's not always about the limitations of his skill set. It's about how many opportunities is he getting? Are there other guys who have it going? You know, playing with guys like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, so on and so forth. There are only going to be so many shots and touches to go around.
Yep.
And we talk a lot about guys that are willing to buy in, play specific roles, adapt as necessary in order to win. And long before he was at the NBA level, we saw that out of Mikal at Villanova, right? Like his role would change night to night. He's playing with some ball dominant guys and saying, okay, maybe I'm the second or third most important player tonight, but I'm going to find ways to impact winning. And so when we get into the discussion of how much it's going to cost or how much it would theoretically cost, it's why I personally would be willing to hit a higher bar for him than some of these flawed stars who are maybe better isolation, one-on-one, like number one scorer type options, because I feel confident that he's going to do and is willing to do whatever it takes in order to get your team from this area that they're stuck in the second round muck to that conference finals, to that finals, and that he has the skill set to adapt when times get tough. So checks all the boxes as far as I'm concerned. I think the biggest thing that we'll get to eventually is I'm not sure he's gettable.
Well, you said that he is willing to do whatever it takes to win. The question is his family willing to do whatever it takes to win? And I think the answer to that has been pretty clear over the last couple of months.
How do you know that?
Look, it's a results business, buddy. Do or do not. There is no try.
The draft is at the end of the month.
No, I mean, I
you
think
hinting at something there?
I'm not saying anything.
Kyle brought it up. I think one of the more intriguing things is that his catch and shoot numbers, especially over the last 4 or so years, have been remarkably consistent.
Yeah.
38 point, and these are catch and shoots from three. 38.3% last year, 38% the year, 38.7 the year before that, 38.1 before that, 40.5 before that, all on pretty good volume. Not like elite Paul George level volume, but pretty good volume. And that consistency, I think, is pretty important, especially when you start talking about sliding him back into the role he had maybe back in a Phoenix-type part of his career. I do think his defense has dropped off a little bit over the last 2 years since getting to Brooklyn. I don't know if that is because he is asked to do so much more on offense or if that's just because they're playing nonsense basketball. I can't get into the mindset of professional athletes. Maybe there's somebody closer to him who could. Who knows? He's still a good defender, but I think what was he, runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year with Phoenix?
Second. Yep.
He was on first team all defense.
Yep.
Yep. And then after that, did he win most improved? No, I think it was like third or fourth in most improved.
He was fourth and most
Okay.
improved in
So
2022-23.
He took that all defense team, that runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year, and improved enough to where he got most improved consideration after that. And usually when you're already that good of a player, it's tough to get a most improved. So he's obviously improved a lot offensively. Like I said, his ability to fit a role at an elite level, that high volume catch and shoot threes at pretty consistent marks, and be a Defensive Player of the Year caliber player. And I think we can get back to that if he's not asked to carry the entire offense like he has been. He's obviously very intriguing. Obviously. That's not why you come here, because everyone sort of agrees with that.
So I remember I think it was after the championship year in 2016. It was a Saturday. I had Derek on the show. He came in the studio. And we were talking about where the conversation draft was upcoming, and I asked Derek about where things were at that time. And I think even after the championship, it was more. Here. No, it was just more because this is the stuff that I was hearing too. But I knew I trusted you that I could ask, since you guys do all the scouting with Draft Express. And Derek was like, "Well, right now he's in the second round," which is what I was hearing, and what talking to his dad, we would hear the same things, and that's where he was. But then he comes back, and every year, the one thing about Kale was always this. From high school, even in the lower ranks, and then you get to high school, start year 2, year 3, bang, he just continues to get better. Year 3 is when he just explodes and bursts on the scene. And the same thing happened at Villanova. It was year 2. They make it to the tournament. Is following that one again, and they lose to Wisconsin. I think it was the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. I can't remember. And Nigel Hayes scored that basket. It was tough. It was devastating to end the season that way. Goes to all the camps, and his name is in a lot of stuff where everybody is coming back also, where Jalen Brunson is back, Dante DiVincenzo, and that next row, Eric Paschall, coming off of the redshirt year. He's able to play Phil Booth. Everybody's back, so everybody's feeling good. And then we get to that year 3 again, and he takes that step. Small forward of the year, the Julius Erving Award. They win the championship again, and it continues to just move up for him. And we get to the pros, and we get to Phoenix. And first of all, as people talk about him never missing a game, the one thing that pissed all of us off was in game 1 where Igor didn't play him until the final 5 seconds of the game. Never, ever forget that. Ever, 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 ever. Since
Damn
then,
you, Igor!
And he became a Brooklyn Nets assistant coach. He was there. But Kale always gets better, and he always works. And the one thing that we would always talk about, and I know his dad was probably watching, his brother-in-law, they won't mind this, mom, anybody, is that when you're evaluating a family member at this level, I can't speak for a lot of other people because I don't know, but in this situation, you feel like you know who the player is, but you also try to be fair about the evaluation of who he is, even though he's your family. And when you get to the NBA, you just know that you have to find a role. And even though he was a top 10 pick, he wants to win. So when you see him taking a step back, as you talked about, and as you mentioned, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, all those guys getting more of the pub, what does he do? He makes all defensive team. He improves in these ways. When they get injured before he's traded, his numbers go up. So he was already starting to show that role he could fill. And then the trade happened. It's Kevin Durant. Okay, we all understand it. But Matt Ishbia is also coming in there wanting to make a big, big splash on what he just did in purchasing that basketball team. That's a discussion maybe for later in the show or another time of if that was the right thing to do or not with how that thing ultimately went. But we knew he can play offense and score the basketball. And then you see when he gets there with Brooklyn for that second half of the season where he's dropping career highs of 45, 47. He's doing what he's doing. The three-point shooting was already developing. People were worried about the hitch in the shot and that. No, it was the way he shot the basketball. It was his shot, and it would go in. And the defense, to Derek's point of Brooklyn this year, Kale mentioned it himself, that there was so much on his plate that something took a step back. He takes pride in that, and that's something that he definitely wants to get back to and being in those discussions of the all-defensive team, being and runner and
you just got to come on down to death row, Mikal. Go come play with Joel Embiid.
In those conversations,
don't have the producers all in the video.
No shiny suits, and being in the conversations again for winning that award.
I just appreciate you going back old enough to a reference I still get.
That's one of my. I make that reference too often, frankly.
He's the when you say the consummate team guy, as I see that because I feel like it. Pod says in there, he's the consummate team guy. He always just wants his team to win. He says it in his interviews. He says that away from cameras. He says that to whoever he needs to say to hear when the conversations are had. And that's just who he is. He just wants to win. So from Great Valley to Villanova, where he adjusts his game to each level, to Phoenix, to Brooklyn, where he had to be the number one guy, he adjusts to what the environment is, what it is for you to win. And with the Philadelphia 76ers being in the position that they are currently in right now and looking for that other player to fit in and slide in, when we talk so much about, will Brandon Ingram figure out what the role is and be okay with that? Will Paul George understand that, hey, Maxey's a young budding all-star, you might want to let him be the number 2, and then so on and so forth down the line with all these other players. Mikal knows exactly what his role is, but he will also elevate and try to thrive in that next step up in that role if given that opportunity to show his scoring chops, which he has done from the three-point range, driving to the basket with his limb, finishing at the rim, and then his patented, I'm going to get you on my hip, I'm going to get to my spot 15 to 17, and I'm going to shoot that pull-up jump shot that a lot of people frown at because he's so efficient. Derek, you might have the numbers of those mid-range jump shots that he takes from that.
We
15,
talk about it a lot.
17.
That's an important shot in the playoffs specifically.
Exactly. So you have to find those, and that's what Kale does. I get mad watching games too when I watch him because of certain things that I don't see him doing. That's out of evaluating, and that's just out of love.
Including not making a trade request.
I just want you to shine and get all-star and all that stuff. But we'll see what happens. It is 2 years left on his deal because we were talking more about when you get to next season, what's left. He has 2 years left. His contract is very, very good for where they got him. Damn you, James Jones in Phoenix, for signing him at that contract. But again, he did what he felt was necessary and right for the team and taking a little bit of a hit there while they were also trying to figure out the DeAndre Ayton piece of re-signing him. He would be a perfect fit. He would have been a perfect fit in 2018 when they drafted him. Damn you, David Heller, behind the scenes getting in the way. Minority owner, no longer with the basketball team. But that said, there are a lot of really good things if they were able to pull that off and get him back into the mix here in Philadelphia. He would be perfectly fine in terms of handling playing at home because he's done it before.
I want to circle back real quickly to something you said as you were talking about the years at Nova, that jump that he was making over the course of his career there. A lot of times with guys who don't leave as freshmen in this era, it's looked at as, well, can you trust that jump, right? Is this just because he's an older player now playing against 18, 19-year-olds? And in a weird way, sometimes we'll come back around like, oh, that guy's getting dinged because he's breaking through as a junior or even a sophomore. Certainly as a senior, people are like, well, he's 22 years old, whatever it is, and we don't trust that. And that was kind of the knock on him, taking him as high as he was going to go. And when he came out can you buy this? Do you buy the shot and all that? And in hindsight, it's one of those things that we talk about with Maxey, right? Where it's a reflection of the work ethic and caring about the right things and having that sort of purposeful work to improve the areas of your game that have to get better for you to become the player that he is now and that people were hoping that he would be when he was leaving Villanova. And so that to me shows you, if you invest whatever it's going to take to get him, we're going to get to price and Brooklyn and all that shortly, you can feel fairly confident as you can be if you're making a crazy offer for somebody, that he's going to come in with the right mentality, the right approach, not just on the floor when the games start in October, November, December, but in the months leading into that, knowing, hey, I'm playing next to Joel Embiid. I'm playing next to Tyrese Maxey. What do I need to work on in this portion of the year where I'm away from the spotlight? I'm just in the gym. I'm with a trainer. I'm doing stuff on my own time. I think he's shown that he has a clarity to go into a situation and say, this is what I need to do. And so, that is part of why, as we'll get to after we talk about a couple of our partners here, it's going to take the sun and the moon more than likely to try to get him.
The one thing about that is when you bring up the player and adapting to a situation and just wanting to win and do everything, I always go back to Drew Holiday and watching how he has done it.
Yeah.
And you don't hear anything. He just goes about his business. He's always available. And we all thought, whatever you think of Damian Lillard, the mistake that they might have made, which was the biggest mistake, was losing the chemistry and the camaraderie of how that changed, not only maybe things within the locker room, but certainly when you talk about their defensive letdown because of letting Drew Holiday go. All he does is make all-star teams, big impact on the Olympic team after they won the championship that year. Damn you, Drew Holiday, for throwing that lob to Giannis in Game 5. And they go right there, and he was a big part of how Team USA did their thing fresh off of jet to get there and win. And that's the type of guy Kale is too. He just steps right in, put the jersey on, no complaining, no nonsense, and go to work and get it done. And that's exactly what he did. And I look at Drew Holiday as a type of a model of how that works. And I hope that he has the same finish of where Drew Holiday has won championships and gold medals. That's also in the conversation. But as the guys talk about it, you don't want to lose sleep, though. Over it. We still have weeks and weeks before
I'm catching up on sleep all off season.
Catching up on sleep. Well, if you're doing that, we have a new sponsor that you should maybe pay attention to here as we talk about sleep apnea a little bit. All Sleep Healthy PA. They are committed to helping Philadelphia residents stop the snore. I've heard that I've had that problem before a little bit, and find solutions for sleep apnea that will allow you to reset well and improve your health. What causes sleep apnea, you may ask? I'll tell you. There's a choke point in the throat that causes snoring. Think of, as they say, that little kink in the garden hose that causes that little problem for the water to continue to come out, something like that. So Dr. Andrew Cohen, board certified in dental sleep medicine, and his staff will work one-on-one with you to provide first-class care that will meet your needs. Many physicians aren't equipped to provide other options outside of CPAP machines. So with that, more than anything, he just wants to see his patients healthy. Tired of CPAP machines that are cumbersome? One of my best friends has this. I know it. Like, I go stop by the house. I might go around the house a little bit. The machine is right there. You see your significant other tired of it too? Well, 50% of divorces cite snoring as main issues. I didn't know that. That's not good.
50%.
Come on now. That's a big number.
Wild.
You fuck with people's sleep.
That's a big number, man. Come on. Based in Jenkintown, he's worked for years, Dr. Andrew Cohen has, to educate dentists across the country on his personal approach to help those with sleep apnea. His team is committed to stopping the snore. Tell him PHLY sent you, and you receive 15% off your initial workup, the process, 2-hour initial exam, split into 2 sessions, information gathering, medical history, and imaging, review results, and share recommendations. If you are experiencing sleep apnea and are looking to custom solution to stop the snore, reach out to Dr. Andrew Cohen at sleephealthypa.com or call 215-337-2501. Tell him PHLY sent you.
We also want to make sure we tell you about TrueMark. We've heard from people who recently joined TrueMark Financial Credit Union right here in Philly, and it's been eye-opening to see the difference between banking at a bank compared to becoming a member of a credit union. When you join a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you become part owner, which means profits come back to you instead of going to shareholders. Someone like your cousin who's on a below-market contract, he might want to look into something like this so he can get some profits coming back. Just until the next deal comes around.
Got him covered.
TrueMark Financial has better rates.
He's really struggling with his $90 million contract. Yeah.
Hey, he is.
Wiping away his tears with $100 bills.
He needs more.
TrueMark Financial has better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and more flexible options overall. And of course, the same digital tools and technology we all want. But the best part is TrueMark Financial is local. They're headquartered in Fort Washington, and with 24 branches across the Philly area, they are deeply rooted in our community. They serve our community and only our community, so their investments and programs help our people right here at home. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer at a bank. It's a total no-brainer. Head over to truemark.com/PHLY to learn more or to find a branch near you. That's truemark.com/PHLY, federally insured by the NCUA.
So real fast, I saw our guy 215 J Philly says Devon wearing that Suns jersey is just nasty right now. Well, listen, first of all, these are my family here too, right? So I'm not allowed to wear a Brooklyn Nets jersey here, 215. So that's just what it is for right now. So we'll see. Stay tuned for minute 30 of the show, though. You might get a little surprise. Also a little surprise for you guys. Me and Bree were talking before the show. When we talk about the Villanova days, right? So me and my daughter went to, remember when they had the tournament at Wells Fargo? And they had all 6 teams from the Big City 6 and the Big 5. So we were there, and my daughter was like, Dad, we went to the Villanova game, which was the first game, supposed to be later. So she was like, Dad, this is nothing like when Kel was at school because of that. But since we were going to do this, right, Bree, we had to share some family photos.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Look at the family photos. That was at Temple.
Even back then, he was trying to tamper.
That was at Temple in the middle, where they knocked off Temple at the Leah Chorus, Kel, after the game. On the left, Sixer fans might not like that one.
Draft workout.
Remember that? Yeah.
I actually, that exact draft workout, there's a picture of me, and this is not about Mikal. Someone took a picture at a time where I was like it wasn't an eye roll, but it looks like I'm like, it's like, God damn, all these draft workouts. Remind me, I'll see if I can find it while we're on one of these breaks in a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll see if
so
we can
Bree,
get
the last one, if you want to put that up, the one on the right was when I talk about Game 5, I said, damn you, Drew Holiday, for throwing the lob. We were in the building for Game 5 of that one. We were up 20 over Milwaukee, and man, it was disappointing. It was disappointing. 2-2 series going back to Minnesota. That play happens. He strips Devin Booker at the free throw line.
And
Devin Booker doing too much, goes down, makes that legendary play now, that memorable play. Yeah.
MBD asking which one was Mikal, which one was Devon. I think you can probably
That's a good question. And on the right, that was his two brothers, his
would
dad,
that have been June
my cousin.
2018 that
June
workout?
2018.
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling through photos. Right
That was
now,
June.
Could have theoretically been May, but yeah. Could have
I
been
think it was
late May,
June.
but probably June.
Yeah, I think it was June. And so that was his dad, one of my other cousins, his two brothers, myself, outside of the arena in Phoenix for that finals game.
Oh,
Tough, man. Tough. It was like,
We'll have to send it over to producer Bree, see if we can get on the
I
show
will.
before the
yeah,
end.
yeah. All right.
But Devon brought it up, the under market contract, right around 24, 25 million over the next 2 years. And that's important not just because it would leave the Sixers from anywhere from $35 to $40 million in additional flexibility for the summer, but also because you can then carry some flexibility into the next season. Not really financial flexibility, because after Maxey's max contract, Embiid's contract, and Mikal's contract, you would be over the cap, but you would be so far under, or you would have more flexibility under the aprons. And the one key here is that I think you have to make a trade that leaves you with some draft picks left where you can still go out and get role players in the future. Because even if you have, let's say, 35, 40 million in salary cap space, this free agency class, which we've talked about a lot, isn't all that deep. There aren't all that many options you'd actually want to go out there and spend that money on. That means you'd have to be able to take money back as a trade. In order to take players back in a trade, you have to have something to move. That something is most likely going to be first round picks. So it's tough to, and as I guess we transition away from is Mikal a good player, which everyone agrees, to can they actually get him?
Damn right.
Part of the concern is that you don't want to, even if Mikal only costs 25 million, if you have no first round draft picks left to trade, it's going to be tough to fill out the rest of the roster. So that is where a lot of the next part of the conversation, I think, comes in.
Yeah. And so there have been publicly and privately a lot of sort of conflicting statements, rumors, what have you, about not Brooklyn's position on Mikal, but where Brooklyn is headed next. I think the one thing we've heard a lot since, let's call it like December, January, when I think at that point we sort of knew, Brooklyn's season was not what they had been hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
They'd got a low end outcome out of Ben Simmons. Mikal was overtaxed, all that. That's when it started to become a story. Okay, are they going to trade Mikal? Mm-hmm. And the most prominent example was Houston offered a ton of draft capital to Brooklyn to try to bring him in. And what I had heard at the time, which I'm sure we all hear very similar things, was that the reason they weren't doing that was less about what Houston was offering, which was a lot, and more about that they thought Mikal would be someone to bring in the other guy.
Right.
And the other guy specifically was Donovan Mitchell, right, was the name that was floated at the time for multiple reasons. One, very good player. Two, the word has been out there for a long time that he wants to play in New York and be in New York. And there's still kind of that overhang of, is he going to extend with Cleveland? And so Brooklyn sat out at the time, said thank you, but no thank you. And so all those points Derek brings up about team control, the contract. We know what Brooklyn's stance has been on the open market. The biggest variable is simply, will Sean Marks make Mikal available at all, let alone at a price that is palatable for the Sixers? So that's the hardest
you're saying,
part.
Going back to your death row analogy, you need somebody to Suge Knight him out a window?
No, I'm not advocating for someone to get vanilla ice at a hotel.
Checking. I'm trying to have clarification.
So maybe Joe Tsai. I don't know. I'm kidding. I promise.
I mean, he never dropped them.
So
just a threat.
The big thing is, frankly, is Mikal willing to take it to a level to leave there? Now, everything that we know through our friend here, but also hearing about Mikal through various parties, is that he's not an instigator, an agitator, someone who's looking for an easy way out. So it's unlikely to be, I'll say, a Kevin Durant type situation where he's just like, get me the fuck out of here, and makes it very public and turns it into
get me the fuck to Phoenix
and get me to a specific place. And that is the key component to me, because if it reaches a point, we've heard statements from Joe Tsai recently saying we have to be a long-term focused organization. It can't be where they feel like they've hurt themselves over the last 10 years or whatever, is focusing on that short term. Like, hey, we want to compete now. We want to collect the stars now.
Yep.
And so now at the ownership level, they're saying, okay, well, we can't do that. This has to be a slower build, a more methodical build. And on the one hand, that would say, hey, maybe we need to move on from Mikal as the number one guy and facilitate that sort of steady building. On the other hand, because of all those character traits, because of the skill set we talk about with Mikal, you could easily make the case that he's a guy who allows you to have a certain floor, to set a certain culture, and then as you're able to, hopefully, if you're Brooklyn, get a Mitchell, or maybe not Mitchell specifically, but someone in that range, draw someone to New York to play with Mikal without dumping a lot of assets, that still accomplishes your goals. And so short of Mikal saying, I want Philly, the problem is going to be, these other teams have more draft capital.
Sure.
The Houston offer is out there, and I think they could probably even increase it more and hit a price that the Sixers either can't or won't get to. Oklahoma City is absolutely loaded with draft picks.
And then there are young players there that Brooklyn may want.
And that's we talked about it a lot with the OG Anunoby trade last season between Toronto and New York, that the Sixers were interested. They had draft capital to offer, but they didn't have Emmanuel Quickly. They didn't have even an RJ Barrett to say, look, these are two guys that they might be able to be part of your next successful team. The Sixers' only real component they can offer is a big and it's a good draft pick offer, but it's not the top of the market. And so they need someone, perhaps Mikal, we're hoping Mikal, to say, this is where I want to be, send me here. And I just think it's unlikely that this guy specifically is going to do that. And so that puts the Sixers in, I don't know if they're running 4th or 5th in this type of race, but a lot of the league would take a look at Mikal if for whatever reason he becomes available.
Saying you need Mikal to have more negative character traits.
Essentially, yeah. And he doesn't. And that's part of why he's so appealing.
No, I mean, look, there was a report out there a while back that Houston had offered, I think it was Jalen Green and multiple firsts.
Before Jalen Green decided to go nuts for the past, 3 months or something?
And then there was I think the number 3 pick, was that out there?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I making that up? And multiple first rounds. So they have made multiple attempts to acquire him. And the thing with Houston is Houston owns Brooklyn's pick for the next 4 years. Like, that is a massive part. And a lot of times when you talk about trading your best player, one of the, you get the picks back in return, and then you also get the side benefit of your pick is going to get much better.
Yes.
And part of the motivation here is that, Brooklyn doesn't have the same incentive to tear it down that some teams would. That doesn't mean there's no incentive to trade Bridges, because I think, quite frankly, they should. They're not close enough to contending with him. He is 27 going on 28. Trade him. He's a great contract for another 2 years. Trade him while his value is high, because I don't think they have a realistic pathway to putting a contender around him. I think that logic is still there. But the problem is, if Houston is interested and Houston owns Brooklyn's picks and Houston can give Brooklyn back those picks, Houston would be trading Brooklyn really good picks back, and the Sixers would be trading Brooklyn a couple of bad picks and some uncertain picks.
Some upside in the Clippers stuff, but we don't know. It's very hard to say.
2026 and 2028, the ones from Houston will be coming back immediately, and they have more young players they can trade if they have interest, and we know they have interest if Mikal Bridges hits the market. I just don't see how the Sixers, without doing something wild like 5 first-round picks and 3 swaps and looping in another team to get some young players, it would take a drastic overpay. And that's why I'm going back to where I started that. If you do that, well, then how the hell are you building the rest of the team out? It's tough.
Well, listen, the Brooklyn Nets might not have a bright future, Derek.
I just want to pat myself on the back, because the last time we talked about somebody who had no chance of being traded here, I said right in the first 5 minutes. I wait until minute 35 to bust that out.
And then you smoked the segue, but hey, who's keeping track here?
Look, patting myself on the back is way more important than your segue. I'm sorry.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that one. But Our friends at Shady Rays are very agreeable. And guys, if you're looking ahead toward a bright summer, sunny summer.
Whoa.
Wow, I really smoked
Butchered
that
that
one.
one.
Speaking of smoking things, Shady Rays can help you out whether you're at the beach, you're in your car. They will prepare you for the season ahead with quality shades that are built to last. Keep the sun out of your eyes. Shady Rays has you covered with premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Shady Rays, if you haven't heard of them yet, damn sure should have. All the times we're talking about them on the show. They are an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Hundreds of options to choose from. Durable frames, crystal clear optics. They are the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. So I have put them to the test already this summer, right? I brought them to the beach. Briefly thought I lost them on the way back. Turned out left them in the car. There was a lot of banging around in that car on the way back from the Jersey Shore. A lot of food, a lot of adult beverages. My 70-pound bulldog throwing his weight around in the back seat. Shady Rays held up just fine. I know you guys have heard a lot about me going up on my roof, doing things around the house. I've used my Shady Rays for those type of situations too, to keep the sun out of my eyes while I'm trying to get work done. So they're stylish, but they're also practical for whatever you might need them. And if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, you don't need to sweat it because Shady Rays has the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. And if you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. No risk when you shop with our friends because their team always has your back with personal and fast support. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays giving out the best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And no, Liam Stevens, I see you in the chat. No adult beverages while driving. I'm just transporting adult beverages to and from. You bring them and then you bring them home, whatever's left, which there wasn't a lot, but we had coolers and whatnot. A lot of stuff in the car. That's all I'm saying.
You know when else you can wear those Shady Rays?
Where?
At the PHLY first annual Liberty Open. Yes, the July 13th Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. Jaws' golf course. It's a scramble format. You can sign up as a single or foursome or sponsor. Be on the lookout at allphly.com under the events calendar for the upcoming events, including this first annual Liberty Open, plus Phillies takeovers as well. As far as the Open goes, tournament gifts and tea prizes, taste of Philly dinner and post-round ceremony at the Pavilion, and unlimited draft beer for 2 hours post-round. So look at that. Contest team prizes on the course as well. And as far as the Phillies go, well, Gall & Company for the London series. They were in here just a few weeks ago bringing some food while the guys and gals were doing their watch-along for the Phillies game. And guess what? The food was fantastic. We had the wings. Yeah, what was that? The kielbasa sandwich that was in there as well. So Gall & Company for the London series versus the Mets June 8th and 9th. That's upcoming. Check out allphly.com for more info. Also, when you become a diehard member, podcasts and live shows on every team, every day, like we have here. For us, 2:30 Monday through Friday. Sometimes things will change. We'll update you on that a little bit later. Post-game shows, premium written content from these guys as we get ready for the draft, free agency, all of that. Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, and, of course, all of the guys in the Eagles and the Flyers. And you have all of that covered. Got to become a diehard member. 20% off events, premium written content from all the great writers that we have here. Dope merchandise for all teams. Free t-shirt when you do become a member. And members-only Discord, the PHLY Lounge. We hope to see you there. Sign up to become a diehard member right now. Right now. Right now. And as we had that break, I did exactly what the Sixers did. Had us all excited for 25 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had to swap the jerseys.
There
Just like they did. Swap the hats.
Put on the better jersey, too.
Oh, hey, look at this.
Look at that.
Look at my sour face. At one of many draft workouts in June 2018. I was scrolling through all the photos. I was not rolling my eyes at Mikal. More than likely, somebody in that scrum smelled a little funky or was bumping me or was doing something that I didn't appreciate. Mikal, I'll have a much happier face on this show in whatever scrum that we're in. If you request a trade and say Philadelphia only, that is the Kyle Neubeck guarantee.
I was at the back of that scrum because I said, I'll just talk to him after he's done. Hence that photo that we showed a little bit earlier. But it was cool. It was cool to see him in that environment and all of that, get the attention that he was getting at that time. And then he got traded. So there's that. All right. So as we look at this, and even you're talking about the potential of the moving and like Donovan Mitchell going to Brooklyn, maybe there's still a lot that needs to be worked out there with the Cleveland Cavaliers and their situation, firing their head coach. They have to hire a coach. There were questions about the backcourt fit with he and Darius Garland, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in the front court. How would that all work out? Those are things that are going to have to be adjusted. And if he doesn't sign that extension, could he then, yes, force his way out? And does he still want to go to New York? Is it still the Knicks? Can they still find a way, Derek, to pull him in there? Or would it be Brooklyn in that case for Donovan Mitchell? That's where things might still be on hold, because when trades happen, a lot of that stuff does get started, folks, at the NBA draft.
Yeah. But if the Nets can't get Mitchell, like, does that change their thinking about building around Mikal? Does he all of a sudden become available? I'm not sure it matters. And again, I can say that because we're 42 minutes in the show, because I think someone like Houston will outbid the Sixers for him, but it will at least sort of get the situation unstuck. Because like I said, I don't think it makes sense for them to keep him to try to build around him. I just think they're on different timelines. Because he was a 3-year player at Nova, he is 27, like I said, going on 28. They don't have very many resources to build around him. They're clearly not good enough now. I think they should look to move him, but I do think if they look to move him, someone like Houston is the very obvious front runner.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I think some of the other teams that are in the mix, I would discount for various reasons. So let's say OKC, like they're the big looming threat in every star or star adjacent trade. Presti just is not he's been very patient in how they're building. And so that's not to say he's not going to make a big trade. And I do think because Mikal has 2 years left versus being on an expiring, that provides a little bit more incentive. Like if Presti says, well, that's the guy who fits in, that maybe he's more willing to take a risk with those 2 years. But then you go to like Utah's not pushing chips in to get Mikal Bridges. The Knicks are a threat. The Knicks, they can put together a decent draft pick
Villanova,
package.
so of course they're a threat to pursue him.
The Knicks are certainly a threat, and that becomes a real conversation. But I do think the Sixers will be, for various reasons, if it happens, they'll be close to the top of the suitor list, and Mikal might be able to grease the wheels just enough for Brooklyn to take not the best possible offer. It would be a strong offer. I guess to get to the central question of the show, where do you draw the line on an offer for Mikal? How much is too much in terms of the outgoing draft picks and what it's going to take to get him? Would you trade all the available firsts to get Mikal on this team?
No.
I don't think I would either.
How many are all the available first? Five. Okay.
Would you trade
just because you need some flex? Give me 3 in a swap. 3 in a swap, I'll do.
I think that's kind of the neighborhood that I'm in too. Because to
be honest, like 3 in a swap for one player is tough. We were talking about this before the show. Like the trade market for first round picks has been destroyed over the last couple of years. First, I think with Drew Holiday, then certainly with Rudy Gobert. In the past, for a non-top 10 player, like 3 in a swap would be a huge offer. Nowadays, it's like that's just kind of like the starting point, and it's still kind of breaking my brain a little bit because, like I said, you do need to have something. Like I said, I think if you trade for Mikal and you have cap space left, that's going to be more to go out and make additional trades, not to make signings. You would love to have a first-round pick or 2 or 3 to trade with, but it would be tough.
To your point, do you know who went for exactly 3 first-round picks in a swap?
Who's that?
DeJounte Murray.
Oh, okay.
That was that exact trade. It was 3 first-round picks and it's interesting because DeJounte and Mikal are kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum, where DeJounte is the self-creator who the book on him is, at least right now, he wants to be the guy on the perimeter. And what the big concern is, if you're a team that's looking to get from around where the Sixers are at to that next level, is Murray willing to sacrifice? And is Murray willing to change his role and go back to being more of who he was in San Antonio, which was high level defense, certainly going to be asked to create a decent amount, but not going to be the alpha dog on the perimeter. He's going to be one of those guys, but not the most important guy, not someone who's always on the ball, someone who's willing to take the catch and shoot stuff. Whereas Mikal, I think people, like, we've already seen his profile as third, fourth option on a given night on a winning team. There's no question about the...
Well, but I do want to say one thing about that. Like, we saw him as a third option, but that was with one elite shot creator
It is true.
and one really good creator. And the Sixers, he'd be a third option with two sort of like average to maybe slightly below average creators, at least passers for their position. It's a little bit
playmaking
different.
would still be a pretty big concern. So what I'm saying is, like, DeJounte gives you more of the self-creation, the playmaking and whatnot. Mikal is more of the clean fit, catch and shoot, play off of Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. And you have to kind of weigh, like, let's say that ends up being the bar. I think the bar is higher because of the Gobert trade, among others, and it has nuked the entire trade market in a lot of ways. So where I would set the bar, I don't think he's gettable currently.
And even, quite frankly, even if they threw 4 and a swap, I'm not sure that's going to get it done either. And that's when I really start getting uncomfortable, because then you can't fill up the rest of a roster. And then you can't really pivot. And there's, like, on the one hand, you sort of just want to get him because he's 27. He's a great fit, even though, like, there's still weaknesses in the team, mostly in the fact that you don't have a real elite level shot creator that you trust. And that's where you need Embiid and Maxey to grow. But as a third option, he could end up being one of the best third options in the league. We've seen him fill that role already. You can get back to sort of being that two-way force and that really good catch-and-shoot player, all the stuff that we talked about earlier. And just to have that kind of certainty for the rest of Joel Embiid's prime, it would be reassuring as all heck. On the other hand, you do still have, like, there are 12 other spots on the roster. You don't really know how you're going to fill it out there with only, let's say, 1 draft pick left or even no draft picks left. And it would be a tough spot to be in, but you feel boxed in because you have to overpay because there is someone like Houston looming. So it is a tough combination for sure. And you just don't know, like, what other options. Like, if you're asking me Paul George and all 5 first-round picks to trade, or Mikal and 1 first-round pick to trade, certainly from a long-term perspective, you trust Mikal to be that third option for a longer stretch. But does that help you more in the next 2 or 3 years? There are some tough conversations to be had.
Yeah.
And I think Mikal is probably right about the best third option you could hope for. It's just like when you start talking about 4 picks and a swap, or 5 picks and a swap, like, that's a lot.
You like, there's pressure to win now, regardless. You really need to win in the next 2-3 years if you make that trade.
I also want to point out one thing. I am naturally paranoid about everything. So would I be paranoid about giving up 4 firsts? Yes, but I'm also paranoid about everything. So maybe I'm just neurotic and you have to look past that. I don't know.
All right, let's get just a couple of super chats that we do have in here. Starting with Ash, our good buddy Ash, checking in with the next trade, Kel, for 10 first rounders. Probably. when you throw 10 in there, you add that extra 5. I'm pretty sure they'll say, you know what? Yeah, let's do that.
So that's not even possible without owning other people's firsts. So that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Almost anybody is available for 10 good first rounders.
Shaheed and Kale. Then you have Miles, Jeff, Bridges of Madison County. Doesn't matter unless Embiid gets in the paint. Radio caller.
There will be.
You would have more your experience with that than we would.
Yeah, you'll get that. I mean, we get it in the comments here. You're not going to please everyone. Everybody's not for everyone. And one thing that you had to get used to was hearing people, as we say, we critique it ourselves. You had to get ready for other people to critique and not take it personally when they do critique. So, yeah, that happens.
Yeah. There's been enough debate about Joel Embiid and where he should be playing offensively. Like, everyone has their opinion. That's fine.
And look, I've said this, we've all said this on many a show over the last month, is that some of the reason that people don't feel super inspired with a lot of these options is because of the creeping doubt they have with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, for that matter. Like, so we can lay it out right now, right? Some of what you need to make up for, if the core is Tyrese, Mikal, Joel, and you're able to get that 3, you still don't have a high level playmaker at through any of your main 3 guys. All of them are reasonably good.
Right.
And the hope would be that Tyrese grows into that guy, but it would take a pretty big jump, right? And that's not a common jump, right? Like if we were to expect steady progress from Tyrese, I think that's reasonable, but I don't think it's likely for him to go from where he's at now to like, oh, he's one of the best playmakers in the league, or even like a, let's say, 85th to 90th percentile type guy in that department. You have to win with him being a score first guy and getting Mikal to be that two-way weapon that we're talking about and make it up on defense. And I think that's kind of the appeal of Mikal, is that he'll take some offensive burden off of Joel, not a ton, but some. And he fits on ball and off ball, but also on the other end of the floor, there's less pressure on Joel to be Superman at the rim because Mikal will prevent dribble penetration. Mikal will set Joel up to be a better rebounder because Joel's not having to get to, 13 to 15 feet out and play that cat and mouse game with pick and roll ball handlers because they're never getting there. And that's sort of what you're gaining while you have to sacrifice some on the offensive upside. So all of this rests on the guys who are here, right? No matter who they bring in, even if they get Mikal, if Markkanen becomes available, if they sign Paul George, there does still need to be some more progression from Tyrese, some, frankly, just luck for Joel Embiid that he's going to stay healthy when it really counts, or none of this really matters. And I'm going to keep banging that drum as long as Joel is here. He will be the best player. So it all kind of hinges on him, as good as Mikal is.
So I have one question for you.
It does, yeah.
Do you know what happened to the hat?
To the what?
The hat that he wore for like 5 minutes.
No, I don't. No.
Because you said you didn't have any Sixers Mikal gear.
Did he
and I was
do
like,
a light on fire and a trash can sort of deal? Because I would feel that. Listen, if anybody's got the right to light a piece of team memorabilia on fire, in the circumstances, he's at the very top of the list.
I don't know where I want to say PR took it back.
Okay.
Because
it would make
they had
sense.
to
It is,
swap
yeah.
I don't know if Zaire took his hat.
Oh, that would make sense.
I don't know. You can probably get that in real time. I can text and find out what happened to the hat, but I don't know what happened to the hat. So no, I don't have any. As 215 said, this is better. I have my Kyle Nova jersey on. I don't know what happened to the hat. No, I don't have the practice jersey that he wore in that photo or the shorts. So no, there's that. Mark Jackson. What was that?
No, go ahead.
Mark Jackson. Would Miles Leonard be a good backup big?
Think about
Well, he was out of the league for a minute because of
reasons why I'm not going to support.
For saying an anti-Semitic slur on a stream.
Yes.
Now, if we want to bring it back to yesterday's conversation, and I don't, but there has been some attempts at reconciliation, but I'm good. No,
I don't even know if he can play anymore at this point. He was already
that was
a backup hanging by a thread.
Feel like that type of player, Mark, is someone that I am interested in, like a stretch big option. They really haven't had many, but yeah, I think you could probably find one
who doesn't
that did not say the word he
slurs
did on a Twitch stream or anywhere else for that matter, and probably feel okay about it.
Yeah. So his next one, as I was texting what happened to the hat, what more from Mark Jackson? What more do we need to see from Maxey to stamp him as that guy?
Well, it's not so much whether he's that guy or not. It's just no player is perfect. And Maxey's weakest point of his game, well, maybe defense, but weakest point of his offensive game is the fact that he's not a high-level playmaker. And I don't think that's necessarily disparaging him. Like, I think people around the league will say that too. His weakness, if he has one, is that he is just an okay passer, and they need him to become great. And he is just 23. Last year was his first year being a lead ball handler. It was trying to, spam a lot of pick and roll reps in practice to try to simulate a game action, but that's hard to do. You need to expedite that, especially like we said, if we empty the chamber here to get someone like Mikal and you're building around a big three where none of them are elite playmakers for their position or for their role in the offense, you would need Maxey to grow. So it's not really about Maxey and whether or not he's not a great player, or it's just his weakness right now is that, and you need, like, if you are going to forego the chance to get a higher level playmaker, you need Maxey to take another step.
So I want to bring in, I saw a clip from, I don't remember if it was Shaq's podcast or Draymond's podcast. The two of them were on a podcast together
That was Shaq's. Yeah,
that was Shaq's podcast,
Yeah.
talking about his Lakers days and playing with Kobe and all that stuff. And a clip that circulated that I thought is relevant to this team was Shaq talking about essentially their plan when they were at their peak was Shaq gets you through the first 3 quarters and then Kobe's got to bring you home.
I saw that.
And he gets the other team's bigs and the other team's players in foul trouble, puts the other team in the penalty. Now it's a little bit different in that part of the reason for Shaq to do this was that he's a poor free throw shooter. And so down the stretch of games,
Absolutely,
you don't necessarily want to be dumping him the ball. But that, as we all saw, a lot of times ball goes to Kobe in the fourth quarter and he's able to, put that finishing touch on the game. And I do think, I'm not comparing Tyrese Maxey to Kobe or Joel to Shaq based on their current accomplishments. But I think if you look at how a lot of their games played out last year, the Sixers, how they won and those stretches without Joel to start the fourth. And was it game 2? Game 2 that they ended up losing, but where Tyrese and Joel, the 2-man game, was centered more around Tyrese as a scorer down the stretch as they took the lead. I think you can see the beginning of that type of trust, that type of dynamic where Joel has long been, if he's not the best first half scorer in the league, he's certainly right there. We see him, even when he was not as good as he is now, he crushed teams in first quarters, allowed them to get to these big leads that they would end up giving away when it was the Joel and Ben show. And so I think if Joel and Tyrese look at that sort of dynamic and say, hey, look, this is how we have to win. Joel is going to have to take sort of a step back in fourth quarters on offense, number one, so he can focus more of his energy on defense, or even when he was tired in that Knicks series, we could see the level of impact he's still able to have there. And as Tyrese continues to blossom as a scorer, an isolation player, somebody who you can count on in the deepest parts of games, that might end up being the recipe. That's where, to Mark's question, we stamp Tyrese proverbially. Like, yes, I want to see the playmaking growth Derek is talking about. I want to see skill set development in terms of getting to the mid-range more effectively. But some of this, and I would say a majority of this, like the next 2 to 3 years, the most important thing is figuring out the right blend of those two guys, because they are the core, they are the featured players, and we can talk about how good a fit each individual free agent and star and potential guy is that they could bring in. But they're going to be the two leaders and pillars of this team. And so they need to be honest with one another and frankly with themselves about here's how we win together. Not how I, Joel Embiid, win, not how I, Tyrese Maxey, star individually. What do each one of us have to give up over the course of 4 quarters to make this a championship level team? And so that clip really kind of crystallized that in my head, I think.
And one thing that jumped out at me as you said that was Kobe taking over because of the free throw shooting and all. The one thing we know about Joel Embiid in that final 12 minutes and even the final 2 minutes of a game, he can make his free throws where Shaquille O'Neal could not. Seeing him fatigued, Embiid, and dealing with that injury against the Knicks when Embiid wasn't playing, Maxey against the Spurs when they needed to really flip that switch in that second half for him to finish the game the way that he did, we've started to see glimpses of that, of him being that closer. Sometimes he isn't. Sometimes he is. That's just the natural growth. He's a fourth-year player in this league. Still has to put some weight onto his body. I saw someone in here mention how he was getting bullied a little bit by DiVincenzo and Brunson. Those guys have been in the league a while, and they're grown men in that way where they're physical, where Maxey is going to continue to build his body. He's strong. He's got muscles.
He's gotten much stronger,
right?
To his credit.
Yes.
Put a lot of work in
and he
there.
still has to put a little bit more work in there where that does not happen as often. But you're already seeing where he is showing signs of being that type of guy where he can close. And if that is the way that they model themselves after because they've seen it happen before, then that would be fantastic for him. He has shown that he can do that and take on that burden of being a guy that can close it out, and it works much, much better when Joel Embiid is out there on the floor, especially if he's going to give him the green light to do it. How many times have we seen it? No, come back and get this on a handoff so you can go ahead and go to work, especially when you have the advantage against the player that's defending you right now. The trust is already there. He just has to continue to keep doing it, and it's only going to get better year after year after year. The guy is in this league.
Wait, he can come back and get the ball off a dribble handoff? Because I was told by another point guard that the ball never finds you when you give it up.
Fair point. Fair point. Sometimes, I mean, Kyle, we would sit in the games. Kyle's like, go back and get it. Because because the offense is going to stall when you're.
And I do think on both their ends, last year was a huge step in what we're talking about here and figuring out how to close games and win tight ones and play the my turn, your turn, playing off of one another. Because Joel, we talked about it all year. The level of trust he has in Tyrese was one of the most important things we saw last year. I think, frankly, Joel learned quite a bit playing with Jimmy Butler, despite the fact that it was only, it was less than a full season they played together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he, over the last few years, has realized, like, I can be that voice that Jimmy was for me. Like, Jimmy was always saying to Joel, shoot the damn ball. Like, you are the dude. You have this immense amount of talent. And I think Joel, from the moment that it became clear, like, okay, Tyrese is going to be a guy, Joel's been in his ear. Like, I want you taking 10 threes a game. I want you being aggressive as you are in the first half, in the fourth quarter, in the closing moments of the game. And I think all those messages, all those reps together have started to converge. And so that's really exciting as long as those two are healthy and playing together. And it's why I understand the position some people have of, like, maybe they don't need a third guy. Maybe there is a role player route here. Maybe they don't need to overpay for this specific player, whether it's in free agency or a trade. But it sure would be nice to have a guy as good as Mikal Bridges or one of these other guys as the third guy on this team.
The fact that we've seen where Embiid has done this in the past with Ben Simmons, where he would say, just simply shoot the basketball because we trust you. Tobias Harris, even on his contract, where he would say, shoot more threes, like you guys always talk about.
Yeah.
He has not had to worry about that with Tyrese Maxey.
No.
At all. And that's what we're going to continue to see. He's 23. He's going to continue to get better. About to lock in this new deal with the max contract. Well-deserved, and we'll see where things go from there. We'll see what they do in the offseason. We'll continue to talk about it because it's going to be a fascinating one for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, so get your tampering on. This is the real purpose of this episode. We're staging an intervention. You need to get in your cousin's ear and tell him it's Philadelphia or it's nowhere.
Okay.
Demand the trade.
Even though he's under contract.
Demand the trade.
Technically, it still is somewhere.
Demand the trade.
Demand the trade. I do have an answer for you.
He said it.
Of the hat.
You all witnessed it.
The answer was, gave it back to a league official, LOL. Should have kept it.
Yeah, should have. That's a good piece of Sixers memorabilia there.
Yeah. Unless he gets a new one, new opportunity.
He's not and he can draft cap.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And he can wear 25
here's your free
now.
Agency cap.
Oh, man, we were all ready, too. I remember one day we would go to the gym in the morning, right around draft time. Me and his brothers, we would go and play some ball. And we were like, what number is he going to wear? Ben's got 25. So we were all in the weeds of.
Boy, does that look silly now in hindsight.
Yeah. We were all in the weeds of it all happening. So interesting times.
Eugene says, demand the trade.
Demand the trade. Demand the trade.
I will say, remember when he first brought Devon on? Brought him on. He signed at the same time, but he couldn't first 3 months. Whatever. Yeah. Remember when he first came on the show and we were teasing him about tampering and he felt uncomfortable with it? Well, now he's fine. You can roast me for tampering all you want.
I'm playing the long game here. I'm just. Hey, I'm wearing you down by any means necessary.
We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. All right. Let's get ready to say goodbye to everybody. Check in with everybody tomorrow at 2:30. But first, we got to do our roll call. A lot of people in there. It's fun to see everybody in there.
Of course.
Appreciate it. As always, who do we have?
Love seeing all our friends and hopefully family out there watching. Wink, wink, nudge,
watching.
nudge.
They are
somebody or multiple somebodies out there.
They are watching, yeah.
The rest of the family, I need
watching.
you on it too. This is not just a Devon job. Just to be clear, I need all of you in his ear to bring the man home that should have been here in the first place. Anyway,
Maybe he's watching. You never know.
I sure hope so. Hello, Mikal, if you are. And thank you for tuning in to PHLY Sixers. Thank you also to Jeffrey Stewart, Prophet One, Haidar overseas, Money Mar, Spo Babby, Barbara Carroll,
What up,
Trust
Spo?
the
Bar.
Pieces, Jenna Finney. I haven't seen
Hey,
that
G.
one before.
It's Gina.
Is it Gina?
It's Gina.
My
yeah.
apologies, Gina. Hello,
Yeah.
Gina Finney. Eugene Ross, King of the Exclamation Point.
What up, Gene?
Walrus, Michael Belfatti. We will get to some of those shows that we have promised you. I can assure you that. Still trying to make it out to Portugal.
Vince is watching, so hey.
Vince is watching.
He hears it.
215 J Philly. Hello, my friend. Ed Wright, Bill Morris, MBD.
What up, MBD?
BDBF. I nailed it. Nailed it. I can read. They told me I couldn't, Mom. Look at him now. Corey Jones Jr., ENT. Who else we got here? Dave, The Truth, Phi Chi.
Phi Chi, what up?
Mr. Sandman.
Sandman.
Who else we got in here today? Who were
Who
our
got?
super chatters today? We have Mark Jackson, Shahid, Ash Monroe.
What up, Ash?
Our guy Ash, who I'm sure
What up,
is
Mark
still
Jackson?
keeping tabs on the
Yes.
the record with and without Joel.
Correct.
Skeeter, who is checking in. He's from CHGO.
What up, Skeeter?
Saying glad to see the All City fam
215
growing.
J Philly, what up?
Akil McKnight, J Love.
Quill.
Did I say Bootzilla?
Boots.
I'm sure Cannoli is in here somewhere.
Holy cannoli. We got X in there as well. What's up, X?
Ghostface 7. Ghostface Killer, one of the best rappers ever, as Nas said over the weekend at
Yeah.
the Roots
At
Picnic.
the Roots Picnic.
I
didn't go
believe.
this year.
By the way,
Didn't
we're
go
going to
this
have to talk about the terrible reaction Method Man and Redman got at Summer Jam
year. Which is why
after Roots Picnic.
I defend Method Man based on what he said. So we'll talk about that.
Well, maybe that's a Friday
We'll
topic.
talk about that.
My girl Winona, you got
Nona.
Rupert Pupkin,
Ah, what up, pup?
Walter James, Lauren Michaels from Saturday Night
We're ready,
Live,
Lauren. We can do the show, Lauren.
Rich P. Thank you, everyone,
You got the bell.
for coming out today.
I got to flex on everybody.
Oh.
Stuff, right? We brought everything in.
We're
except for the
already
Sixers
pissed off
hat.
that you haven't tampered. Now you're going to bring out another team's jersey.
I
If
didn't
you
bring the
could,
purple
for
one,
me and
'cause
for
that's
all
the
of us,
signed
and
one.
certainly for Mikal,
Didn't bring the
hit
purple
that
one.
subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications. Look at that bell
Look at that.
ring.
That was aggressive.
Notifications each and every time we go live.
Aggressive.
If you hit the thumbs up button, it will serve as an advertisement to Mikal Bridges
Yes.
of how much you want him to come to Philadelphia and play next to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey.
Look at Spo
So
Babby.
make sure you send that damn message to Mikal to come on down to Death Row. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We will be back
Thank you, Bree.
at 2:30 tomorrow. See you then.
We all silly like the mayor.